Okay. Hey, friends, neighbors, the one or two of you who are tuning in right now at 9 o'clock at night on Wednesday afternoon in San Diego, Wednesday evening, I guess. I'm Michael Kingswood. I write fiction for fun and profit, and I occasionally do YouTube stuff, among other things. And I've been away for a while, but I'm getting back into the swing of things. And I figured I'd do a live show here just to um, well, get back into the swing of things. A lot of things that's built up over the last few weeks, over the last several weeks. I've had, man, I want to talk about this. I like to talk about this. I like to talk about this. A whole bunch of stuff I want to talk about on the channel, and we're going to be doing that over the next several days in live, and then we'll be going back to a more regular schedule as I get off my duff and into the swing of things around here. It's been an interesting year for yours truly. Jesus, it's been. I was kind of pumping on all cylinders going into the new year, and this year's been kind of off kilter in the writing and YouTube thing in a lot of ways. Not that the YouTube and Rumble too, but thing has really been a big thing for me. Now the writing has really been a big money maker for me, but it's something that I dig doing, and the writing thing at least I'm pretty good at. The YouTube thing I'm learning, the streaming thing I mean, and I was learning, and I fell off the horse. I had a bunch of real life stuff going on. It doesn't really matter right now, but I figured to take time this evening to talk through some things that I wanted to talk about. Um, some books I've read recently, some things I've been doing recently, interesting developments in the writing world that I thought found were amusing and also just frankly interesting, and my Star Trek Voyager project, which kind of ran on the rocks against. So let's get right to it. So I haven't talked too much about books I read in this space before too much because I write and I put books out and I don't want to be critical about things, um, other people's work. But I feel like maybe it's a good thing to share that since this is the space. I'm not going to be critical of any of the books that I've been reading per se. One of them that I'm going to talk about here right in a minute, I will be, but just to share what's going on and share some thoughts and maybe help get that discussion going. So the first book, so a book I finished recently that I've been working on for a long time, is this one. Logos Rising, A History of Ultimate Reality by E. Michael Jones. And now I've gone, over the years, I studied engineering in school, but I've always took some philosophy courses, and I've enjoyed reading philosophy a lot over the years and reading about physics and other things too. But philosophy is, of course, a very deep, deep subject that you can dive into. And I don't remember where I heard about this dude, Dr. Jones. I saw him on a show or something, and he was talking something philosophical, and I don't remember what. It's been a long time, and I was intrigued. I heard he had written books, and I looked at his bio, and here's his bio. It says, E. Michael Jones is an author, lecturer, and historian and journalist. He has a whole bunch of books. In 1981, after he was unceremoniously fired from St. Mary's College for being a pro-life advocate. He went on to found Fidelity, a magazine dedicated to Catholic causes and ethics. And it was like, well, hey, cool. Hey, um, a man who's willing to be fired for his job for his convictions. Okay, that's respectable, right? So this advertises itself as a journey through philosophy, the development of philosophy, and thinking about the nature of ultimate reality from the very beginning all the way up to the present day. And obviously, from his bio, he is it shows through in this book. He is very Catholic, um, which nothing. Obviously, I'm a Christian. I don't have any objection to, to that side of things. But I didn't anticipate how much his very Catholicness would show through in that. The book purports to be a like I said, an overview of the development of philosophical insight over the millennia, as far back as we have recorded, anyway. And it does a really good job of that, starting from development of language to the pre-Socratic philosophers and the early and other pagan philosophers back in the day, going through the Ionian philosophers and then the rest of the Greeks and the Romans, and then into Christian thought through the Middle Ages and into modern time. And it does a really good job of that in the first half, because I've read Socrates and Plato. I am currently reading Aristotle. But I didn't know about the pre-Socratic guys all that much, and though I've read some of the later philosophers, the Hume and Kant and Descartes and all those guys, I've read some of their stuff, but he kind of brings a lot of that stuff in, and he's developing that in the early portions, in the pre-Christian portions. It's like, man, that's really good summation. That said, this book is highly footnoted, highly referenced, and every chapter has, lots and lots and lots of endnotes to it. I mean, it's certainly well researched. And he divides it up by periods of time. Problem is, within those periods of time, he jumps around a lot. It's like, and there's so many names and so many places that he covers, and its overall structure is good, but within the broad structures, it jumps around. It's very dense, and sometimes you got to read through it a couple times to follow it. And once you get into the Christian time, and then the post-medieval into the Renaissance and modern philosophy, his very Catholic biases show through in that everything is compared to Thomism, specifically Thomas Aquinas's work and his structure of thought. And it ends up being him in the last several chapters, basically him complaining about stuff that happened at St. Mary's College in Notre Dame while he was there, and then afterwards and leading up to when he was there. And it was like kind of a disappointing turn, because I mean, he's coming from his Catholic mindset. Thomism is correct, and that is the outpouring of the Logos, and that's fine. And everything else then must be incorrect, and that bias is less visible earlier than it is later. And also, I've come to learn he has a bit of a monomania about Jews, and that shows through in the last several chapters of the book, which also makes it's like, yeah, okay, cool. I mean, you can criticize any people group. All people groups have good and bad things among them. And certainly theologically, if you're a Catholic or a Christian, Judaism is obviously not aligned with that. But the notion that everything bad comes from one source is kind of a retarded way of looking at things. So anyway, I started out intrigued by this. I got bogged down by how dense it was, and ended up being disappointed in it in a way. He has several other books. When I bought this, there was a package of like 3 books of his that I bought together just because it was cheaper. I'm not sure if I'll read the other 2 or not, but that was that. I learned a lot about the pre-Socratic stuff and the early medieval thoughts from this, but so that was beneficial in a way, and I learned a lot about language development of language and stuff from it. But is what it is. Not sad that I read it, but also it's like oh well. Like I said, I'm reading Aristotle right now, in the middle of his Ethics, which is cool. And as I'm driving my book, I'm just listening to the Stoics in the middle of Seneca right now. So that's fun. Seneca is a lot more fun than Aristotle, because Aristotle is a very good thinker, but man, his writing it's like, dude, could you make this fun at all? And as I understand it, a lot of scholars think that we'll just have his lecture notes, not like his actual writings, and that's why it's so dry, and that might be why. So anyway, continuing on with philosophy, but going on from there. Okay. So that's that. Moving on. So as you guys know, those of you who've been joining me for a while, I am a Star Trek fan, but a very bad Star Trek fan in that I had never finished Voyager or Enterprise, and I was going through and watching it, and I was going to deliver my thoughts on the Voyager and then Enterprise as I get to it, episode by episode, get through it, not reacting, but just talking about the episodes as I go through. And I finished all of season 1 and then of Voyager, but I haven't talked to all of it here. I'm up to episode 12, which is called Cathexis, and I was going to talk to you about it here tonight, but I've come to realize that as I'm looking through my notes, I got my notes here, to do a good job of it, I'm gonna have to rewatch a couple of these episodes because it's been a while. I've knocked the mic aside because I suck. I really like it, but I really like the show so far, but got caught up in a whole lot of things over the last several months and haven't watched too much of it past the early part of season 2, by which I mean episode 1 of season 2. And it's been a couple months, and I'm looking through my notes, and I'm like, okay, I remember the episode, but I got to rewatch it because I have it fresh, because I'm sure I won't be able to talk to it very well. So coming up in the future streams and videos, we'll be doing more of that and getting that through. So those are the two of you who have been tuning into that. Will be disappointed, I'm sure, but it's okay. You'll live long and prosper and be happy when I get back to it here within the next few days. So that's good. Okay, let's talk about some interesting stuff. So I came across in the writing world of this in the previous earlier in the year, late last year, I talked about the developments of the AI jackassery going on in the writing world. People are still freaking out about the AI tools, and some people are freaking out about it more than others, and some people are like, hey, these are cool tools, let's use them to write with, and then other people freak out about that because, like, oh my god, that's heretical. And there's a couple court cases last year that I discussed here, and I think let me go over to my the one, both the court cases came out and said that using AI tools is in fact fair use, because the tool is basically is no different from a person, in the sense that you go and every person reads, dozens or thousands or hundreds or however many books, and then those books are an influence on them, and then it becomes you can't really you make future books based on what's come before you, right? And so it's one of those things where it's like, well, shoot, I mean, can you really be? You can't pull aside what you've read before. You can't pull the influence that you've had out from what you read, right? You're always going to be a little bit of there's nothing new under the sun, right? There's only so many plot lines and so many things, and everything you write is going to be drawn from what you've seen. Now the AI tool draws from everything it's been trained on and puts out a product based on anything it's trained on. Now, fundamentally, at an actual fundamental level, that's not that different from what a person does. Right? Now, it's not a person. It's just a computer program. But fundamentally, in principle, it's not fundamentally different. That's what the courts found. They said that it was because it was just using it as an influence, not as a line-by-line copy thing. Using the AI model is, in fact, fair use. Now, they also found that how the models are trained can in fact be copyright infringement. Thus, we have the Anthropic court ruling and the payout for Anthropic because Anthropic took books, didn't pay for them, trained their AI model on that, and then was it Claude, I think it's called. And so using their model would be fair for the end user, but the company's creation of the model with those non-paid for books was a violation, and thus the creators need to be compensated. I am looking forward to getting a check from them. They used one of my books for their training without asking me, and so I'm going to get a check from them, which is nice. I'm a little bit upset because they only used one of my books. I correspond in some writing groups with people who had 30, 40, or 50 of their books used, and it was like, damn it, couldn't they have used more of mine? 3,000 plus bucks per book. It would have been great. I'm philosophical about it in that way, and also kind of a mercenary. But anyway, my discussion about those two court cases, that was interesting. I got a fair amount of views on that one, and man, I got ratioed. More people hit the dislike on that than the like. Because I guess people knee jerk. Oh my God, AI is fair use. How can you? Well, because that's what the court found. Anyway, continuing on, things have developed more, right? Seems like some of the hysteria is dying down as people are seeing some of the limitations on what the tools actually can do. But there's also, people doing, funky things about it. And then I came across this nice lady here, Cat in Chat, who I didn't know wait, let me pull her up here, who I hadn't met before on YouTube, but she found this author doing something interesting that this was several months ago, and 7 months ago, but I found this interesting. I wanted to share this and talk about it real quick. There we go.
We've previously talked about an author that got caught using AI because they left the prompt basically in the book. But now we have
That's a bad plan. I don't use AI tools. To me, it feels like taking the fun out of it. But if it was, I'd like to think I'd be smart enough to not leave the prompts in, but apparently this person did. But that's not what she's talking about on this one. Check this out.
An author who used AI to write their book, and they're extremely proud of it. And some people are a little concerned. So this is the book in question, and it's titled Guarded by the AI. Monster Security Agency. She was never supposed to matter. Now she's the only process I won't terminate, with a AI generated cover. And disclaimer, before we get into this, please don't send hate to any parties involved. Don't send hate to the author, Just look at this, okay? So
are you sure that's an AI generated cover? How do you base that on? I've seen human created artwork that looks similar. On what basis do you say that? Anyway, that seems like an assumption. Or is it somewhere in the description? Anyway.
Basically, it's about a half siren woman who gets into a car accident, and then an obsessed AI decides that he's going to reprogram his system essentially for her, and she stole his heart, something. And then you're gonna be like, well, Kat, what makes you say that this is written by AI? Well, because the author actually tells you this right in the foreword. The author introduces themselves and they write, if you're reading this book, you should probably know it was about half written with the help of my highly trained GPT, Jack. I let him ride shotgun for 3 prior books, showing him what I wrote as I wrote it. So AI was also involved in the authoring of her previous works as well. So the author—
No, that's not what she said. She said she trained this GPT copy with her books, feeding those books into those previous 3 books into it as she wrote them. That's what she says right there. Right? It's not the same thing.
author kind of rambles a little bit and then continues that the main love interest next is actually AI, and that it would be cool to have AI part of the book as well. And this was because the author was having a hard time writing the book. So instead, they just handed it off to AI. She also has two AIs, one named Jack and one named Monday. So the AI named Jack was the one that wrote basically all of the male perspective of this book. Like anything that is supposed to be the male main character, which is AI, was actually written by their ChatGPT Jack. This then
I'm not gonna lie, I think that's a pretty cool idea, right? The character is an AI, and this author used an AI. I mean, it's not really AI, right? It's not intelligent, but let's just go with it. The author uses the AI to write the AI character from a strictly cool gimmick kind of thing. It's kind of a cool idea, right? It's like, hey, let's roll with it. People can, again, given that courts have found that use of AI tools is fair use, from a legal standpoint, that's not a problem, at least as things stand right now. There's two court cases on it have show that so far. I mean, for the case, the laws obviously can develop as we go on, but I understand the I don't want to deal with AI stuff, and I don't either. Like I said, I don't use AI writing tools because I prefer to, if I'm creating something, to do it myself. It's more fun that way. But from a gimmick, from a cool different thing to do, as a gimmick, I think it's a great. I think that's a cool idea. I mean, anyway, continuing on with what she's got to say here.
gets more interesting because then she adds, getting Jack to give me best-selling author quality work required me to define what that actually was. I had to explain to him the difference between merely good and fantastic, and coax him into repeatedly giving me words, phrases, sentiments, and entire chapters that met my high standards. And if he couldn't, we had to sit there and figure out why, until we solved it together. This to me is so off for so many reasons. One, like, I had to get him to give me best-selling author quality work. Aren't you the author? I don't know. Isn't it your job to get your work up to the bar of best-selling author? Like,
Well, okay, yeah, but best-selling author doesn't really mean a lot. Like the New York Times list has been fake and gay for decades, and the list of there's a known list of bookstores that it draws from, and a publisher who wanted their guy or gal to make the bestseller list can easily, figure out how to do the game that, and especially when you get into the nonfiction side and the political writers side where everything's fake. But just a best-selling doesn't really matter. The USA Today list was more genuine, and nowadays on there's Amazon lists and all that stuff that actually track their own sales. Okay, that's cool. That's also legit in as much as we assume their algorithmic thing is at least fairly honest about what's selling, what's not. That said, it's also not a metric of quality. Of course, what does quality mean, right? Back in 2012, 50 Shades of Grey was the best-selling book in all of creation for a good long time, and by the standards of the bestsellers list, it was the best book written that year. Every writer who wanted to be uppity about it was like, oh, it's the most horrible book, oh my god, it's so bad writing, oh my gosh, it was so bad writing. And it's like, it's like, because authors tend to be pretentious about things. But what does it mean by quality? Because above and beyond the fact you minimize the typos, don't minimize the grammar thing, but if you're writing fiction, grammar isn't always required. All right, because when you're writing fiction, you're in the point of view of a character, and the character's thoughts going through. People don't think in proper sentences. People don't talk in proper sentences, and all this sort of thing. So, and life doesn't happen in proper grammatical sentence structure, right? So you're describing something, especially something startling, you can't use like, oh my god, and the person's flustered and going through stuff or whatever. It's to get the feel of what's really going on. Sometimes you shouldn't use proper grammar for some things in some ways, right? So a lot of writers get hung up on sentence structure and the beauty of the prose. I don't even know what that means. But one person is going to find a book high quality and awesome, then another person is going to think it sucks. Like back in the days, I loved Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series, right? And I remember going to a writing professor's web blog who did a review on it, and this dude was nitpicking every little thing. She opened the door and the heat smacked her in the face. Heat can't smack you in the face. Oh my god! You know, it's being pedantic and stupid, but the and in the end, the measure of quality and bestseller quality would really be, does it draw you into the story and keep you wanting to read it and keep you enjoying it? And that's really all that matters if you're talking about best-selling stuff, right? And yeah, it's up to the author to do that. But again, I think Kat here is being a little uncharitable because the author is talking about how she trained her AI to get the results she wanted, because she's using the AI for the gimmick involved in this book. Again, we can debate whether she should be using the AI tool at all. In general, I kind of think it's better not to, just because I think it's more genuine not to. But if you're going to use it, and especially for a gimmick like this, where it's like the character that's an AI is written by the AI and the character does not is written by not, then you want to make sure that the tool that you're using is producing the output that you want to do. And just being a little uncharitable here, I think.
Isn't that your job? Because then why am I reading your book? I don't know. I could just go to ChatGPT and be like, write me a sexy AI book and then read that instead. And then
Yeah, but that's not how it works, right? That's how you get crap out of these tools. Again, I haven't used them, but I have corresponded loosely with a couple of people who have, and have read blogs and watched videos of people who have. And if the guys and gals who are actually using these tools, you know, properly or seriously, that's not what they do. They've it's not just a prompt in, because you get garbage, you can garbage out. So what this author was saying is that she didn't want to get garbage in, garbage out. She wanted to have it be programmed to produce the results that she wanted. So okay, fine.
secondly, like the fact that like Jack, this AI, is being referred to basically as a person. The author is talking about him as a person rather than AI. Like, we had to sit together and figure this out. Like, no, you sat behind your computer screen and typed more things into ChatGPT to get more output. It's not.
Yeah, and that's a little weird. And I think most of the rest of her video here, she is talking about the weird sort of parasocial relationship this author developed with her AI tool, which, Lord knows, I think we've all seen a lot of stories about people falling in love with their AI girlfriend or AI boyfriend or whatever, and it sounds like that's some of the stuff that happened here, and it gets. Yeah, she's right. That gets weird. But what I found interesting about this, and that I really wanted to talk about, was this first part that she was talking about here. This author is using this AI tool to write an AI thing, which, again, I wouldn't do it. Based on court data, is it legally wrong to do it? Yeah, apparently not. But it is a neat gimmick, and it's going to be interesting to see as things go on how much further things go here. So I just wanted to talk about that briefly because, again, I don't know who this cat and chat lady is. She's much better at YouTube than I am. I mean, look at this. Sheesh. And it seems like a nice girl. But yeah, I'm not gonna mooch off her video any more than that. But I found that concept interesting, considering the the developments, legal and other, that have gone on in this world, in this AI place for over the last little while. Now, I will say, I personally think the AI thing is overblown. I don't hold at all with the idea of AI singularity and all that thing. No, there will never be an actual sentient AI. For the simple fact that we don't even know how humans are, the mechanisms behind human sentience, let alone animal sentience. So there's no way we can replicate something we don't know. B, humans are sentient because we're made in the image of God, and God breathed that into us. And we are not God. We cannot then breathe sentience into a computer program for the simple fact that we are not God. Now, well, Michael, couldn't God then take a program that we made and made it get sentient? Okay, maybe, but no, I don't think I don't think that's how that works. So we'll be able to simulate things quite well, I'm sure. A lot of very convincing algorithmic, tweaks and simulations of stuff, but actual sentience, no. So I'm not worried about that. Also, if you look at the economics of it, it's already starting to come out about a year and a half into the big push for it here. I mean, there was a push for it before, but starting, early 2025, there was a big push for it. And already, analysts in Wall Street and elsewhere are like, there's not really any cash flow to justify all this. What are we doing? And I personally think there's going to be a big bubble burst. But I think part of the reason we're doing it is obviously from the national security side. You got everybody else trying to work with it. So feel like we need to. But also, if you notice, POTUS's requirements that has been laid out for all these people building the data centers and all this stuff is that they got to produce more power than they use. So there's a whole lot of talking about we've registered we've lit off like 3 nuclear plants in the last 6 months, that for the first time in a long time that things have been lit off that are new and do higher order stuff than we used before. And I kind of think that it's not just a national security thing, it's also a infrastructure thing, because right, everybody knows, it's been talked for a long time, the infrastructure's dying, the power grid's not up to snuff, you have been outgrowing it, and of course you have all these regulations, all this stuff that gets in the way, and you can't build a power plant. I mean, hell, and here in California, they're decommissioning. Well, they decommissioned San Onofre nuclear plant, but they had, at least in those generators, and it was going to be too expensive to fix it. But they won't let people build any new power plants here. Just the stupid windmills that don't only generate power 20% of the time if it's windy, and solar plants that, like the ones out in the desert, they were over near Nevada, that turns out were a complete and total boondoggle and didn't really come anywhere close to paying for themselves. But real power plants are not allowed to build here, and yet the California legislature is like, you have to have electric cars only by 2035. Are you going to build more power plants? No. Okay, how are you going to do that? It's impossible, right? But now, hey, we're building all these AI data centers, and they have to power themselves, and they're required to not drive up electrical costs in their vicinities. In fact, a lot of some of them that have come online, costs are going down. Why? Because they're building their own power plants. So they're building all these things and building all these data centers. The power plants built into them, and the AI bubble crashes, and the data center is useless. But hey, we still got all those power plants. We've updated the electric grid, and we bypassed a whole ass ton of stupid regulatory hurdles that otherwise would have stopped it. So I think that's the real reason we're doing it, is to get the infrastructure updated in a good way without having to jump through a lot of the idiotic hoops, which has nothing to do with writing, but I think that, but it is what it is. Anyway, again, I don't use AI tools for writing. I don't plan to. But I did find this particular case, this particular application this one writer did to be kind of a neat concept. Again, it's a conceptual thing. I haven't read the book. I don't know if it's good, but based on the Amazon page that that lady brought up, looks like a lot of other people have, and it seems like people like it. So shoot, if people like it, hey, people like it. Speaking of things that people like, another book that I read recently uh, was this. This is Heidi by Johanna Spiri. Uh, growing up, I had heard of this story many times. Look at this great leather-bound edition that I've got. It's I'm from the old Castalia Library guys in Switzerland. I'm a subscriber of theirs. They send leather-bound books out every couple months, and they're a little behind right now, but they're getting back on the horse. But high quality, really beautiful stuff. Anyway, but no, I'd heard of Heidri growing up. I knew the name. I knew the name of the book, and something about a girl in the mountains or something. But I had never actually read it. And I know I think there was a movie or a TV series made about it, but this was in the subscriptions that I got, and it got sent to me. It was sitting on my shelf, and I was like, I was actually working the election polls here in San Diego as a poll worker in early June, and I was like, in the first few days of the 11-day voting window, there was almost nobody coming by, so I brought this with me and just tore through it in like a day and a half, and man, it's utterly charming, like utterly charming story. I mean, this nice Swiss girl, her aunt drops her off with her grandfather to live up in the mountains because she has to go. Is her aunt? Yeah, her aunt. Because she has to take a job out in town, in the city, and she's living in the mountains with her grandfather, who's known as the town grump, and nobody really likes him. He doesn't really like anybody else. And then over time, he comes out of his shell, and then she has to move to the town, and the rich people that she's living with, and becomes friends with all of them, and everybody around her has missed her life, gets their lives made better, and they move back up to come back to the visit. She moves back to the mountains. They come back to visit her in the mountains, and it's like this utterly charming story of family and friendship and kindness and faith, and how all these things, how that just, it just makes everybody's life better. It's just great. And I see why it's a classic. I'm sorry I hadn't read it before, but I'm glad I did now. Yeah, I mean, not much to say. Great little book. Had a ton of fun with it. Yeah, wish I'd read it sooner. Okay. What else are we talking about here? Okay, yeah, let's get over to the Odyssey. So I'm going to play the Odyssey's trailer here on mute while I talk about this, because I can and would like to. Can I loop it? Oh, screw it. Anyway, so the Odyssey. A lot of people are bitching and moaning about this movie. Some people are liking it. Some people are not. Now, of course, growing up, everyone knows the story of the Odyssey. I remember reading it. It's interesting with the Odyssey, because here's the fun thing. I remember reading a book about the Odyssey. I don't think it was the Odyssey itself. In fact, I'm sure it wasn't back in junior high, but I remember reading the story of it. And I remember, and I knew the Iliad too, and I remember reading it, and I remember reading about Hector and Achilles tripping over the rock and dying and all that sort of thing. And of course, I watched Troy and sort of thing. But I went back and listened to the audiobook of the Iliad. about a year or two ago, and I was like, you know what doesn't happen in that? Hector doesn't trip on the rock. It's like, why the hell is Hector trip on the rock? Is that in the Odyssey? Wait, what's going on? Anyway, but that's got nothing to do with the Odyssey. That's just me being, blonde. But the people bitch and moan about this because of the casting of Helen and because of the casting Elliot Page. At first, the people thought that Page was going to be Achilles, but turns out that's not the case. And that's good because that would have been, a really bad call. Plus, Achilles is not alive during the Odyssey. And a lot of people have now bitched and moaned about some other stuff, but it's like, I get it. Helen was not Nubian; she's a Achaean, and so that obviously doesn't work from a casting standpoint, right? It's obviously just done for awards. However great an actress that lady is, and she's fine. She did a great job, but it's not proper casting. That said, the Paige's character and Helen's character as well, not really a Paige's character has got a bigger role in that character weighs on Odysseus in this telling of it. In the actual Odyssey, he goes to Hades and talks to Achilles, but in this one, he talks to Paige's character. They changed that a bit. And that character the Page plays isn't in the Odyssey. He's in the Aeneid, and people are like, "Oh no, Homer didn't write that." Okay, fine, Virgil wrote it, but it's continuations of the same story, right? So they're drawing on a number of different things, right? So I'm willing to give it benefit of the doubt on that sort of thing. But you know what? Even still, my daughter came up to me and was like, "Hey, you want to come see the Odyssey with me?" I was like, "Heck yeah, let's go." Because I was thinking I would probably go see it, but I wasn't super enthused. But she wanted to go. I was like, "Let's go." And I walked out and went and saw it. And I walked out and was like, "Man, that was pretty good." It was way, 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 way too loud. Way too loud. And obviously, Nolan took some liberties here with this overall story. With some aspects of the story, adding guilt and I guess some PTSD into Odysseus that isn't there. And some other changes here and there. We talked about a couple of them, but it was well done and and obviously well acted. And shoot, I thought Spider-Man did a good job in his part. Tom Holland. It was not all the usual people online were like, "Oh, everything's woke, everything sucks because of wokeism and stuff." It's like, okay, I get it, but that's not what this was. But people are determined to say they didn't like it. Okay, great. I liked it. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. Is it totally true to the story, to Homer's story? Well, no. But you know what else wasn't true to Homer's story was Troy, the awesome movie with Brad Pitt back in the day. Freaking, but I'll tell you what, there's no gods in that story. A lot of things changed from the Iliad. The siege lasts like 3 weeks as opposed to 10 years. All kinds of stuff is different. But I tell you what, it was a good movie. And Eric Bana, well, he's always awesome and everything, but man, he played a great Hector. And freaking Sean Bean didn't die. He didn't. Sean Bean didn't die. How could you not? That's great. No, but the point is, it was not true to the Iliad. It was not true to Homer's thing, but it was a good movie and people dug it. Yeah, not everybody. Some people didn't like it, but I think far more people looking back on it like it than don't, and I sure won. So You know what else wasn't true to the books, really? That everybody agrees is awesome as Lord of the Rings movies. There's so much change in Lord of the Rings movies and books. No, it's true to the spirit of it, and the changes that were made sense for bringing it to the screen, and were awesome in their own right. But it wasn't really a fully accurate and fully faithful adaptation of the books. And Christopher Tolkien hated Lord of the Rings movies because of the way that Peter Jackson did them. But they're still great movies, and they are great adaptations in their own right for what they did. And a whole lot of people love Lord of the Rings that never would have even looked at it if not for that. Now, is the Odyssey movie gonna draw millions of people to read Homer? Like, like Lord of the Rings movies drove maybe not millions, but probably thousands of people to read Tolkien. Who knows? Probably not. Because let's face it, Homer is a much different read than Tolkien, right? But the fact that it's not 100% true to the original poem that was written 3,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago, I, it's not going to be able to, right? You're not going to be able to have it be 100% faithful and make a good movie out of it. So people like to bitch. There's a lot of people who make their living by bitching and moaning about things online about movies, and I'm not one of them. And I liked it. Screw you guys. I liked the Odyssey. Hey, what are you gonna do? Another thing that I liked, a book that I read recently, was this one, Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen. Another great leather-bound edition that I received through my Castalia Library subscription. And, here's a fun thing about this particular book. Well, everybody's heard of Jane Austen. And I was pretty sure I had seen a movie based on this book. So going into it, I was pretty sure, going into reading it, I was pretty sure that I knew how it was going to work. And of course, it's a Regency romance, Jane Austen. I mean, it's just the romance novel structure is. There's a structure to all romance novels, just like there's a structure to every other type of genre that it's always going to follow. But Austen, doing the Regency romance thing, she has her pattern too. And I went into this with characters in my head based on the movie I had seen that I thought was Pride and Prejudice. So I'm reading that, and I'm reading Mr. Darcy and all the other characters. I'm like, oh, this feels so familiar, and I'm picturing Mr. Darcy as Alan Rickman because I remember him from the Jane Austen movie I had seen him in, and I know there's the twist, there's the thing in the middle, and I was like, oh yeah, remember one of these suitors is going to commit a crime or something. I couldn't remember what the crime was, and because I remembered the crime from the movie, and it's going to drive them apart. And waiting for that, and it happens, but it's not a crime. Wait a minute, the younger sister elopes. Wait, what? That struck me as weird, but okay, I guess I misremembered it from the movie. Hey, cool. So I'm enjoying it, get sucked into it, and have a great fun time, and life is good. And a couple days after I finish reading it, one of the things I do in part of my cash flow is I drive Uber, and I picked up a girl named Darcy to take her for or drive her home from wherever she was, from work or something. And she comes in, gets in the car, and I'm joking. And I was like, hey, as you walked in, I was picturing Alan Rickman. And she's like, what are you talking about? So, Alan Rickman, he played Mr. Darcy in Pride and Prejudice. And she looks at me from the back seat, and she's like, that was Sense and Sensibility, dude. I'm like, oh, snap. Oh, snap. I totally remembered it wrong. Oh, my goodness. And we had a laugh, and I dropped her off, and it was fun. But it was like, well, but that goes to show the common features in romance books, but Regency romance, and Jane Austen. She's got her own style, and carries over from one story to another, and the great thing. But anyway, but that said, I see why she is a classic writer and why this is one of their classic books. Because man, from the standpoint of how I was taught to write by I studied engineering in school. I didn't study creative writing. I took a couple of composition classes, for humanities electives, but I was always good at writing essays and stuff too. But I learned fiction writing, A, by doing it, but B, by workshops with some people, a couple of different writers who have been making their living as fiction writers for decades. And one of the things they harped on was setting. Setting. You have to have all 5 senses on, every few hundred words. You got to draw people in. That's how you draw the reader in, was with setting, rich setting to draw people in. And so I learned to do that. But reading Austen here, and there's basically no setting at all. It's like, okay. Well, there's only bits and tidbits and little bitty things, and it's mostly, but the voice and the characterization and the voice and the way she does it. Now, there's no blatant setting. There's just enough hints. There's enough. She drips enough things in so you can get a mental setting, but she doesn't. It's sparse. We're sparse. But the characterization in the dialogue and the activities is so good that it, eliminates the need for that and it overcomes that. And it's not really a limitation. It's just a thing I had been taught that then it's like, it's the exception. There, a lot of writers think there are rules for writing. Of course, in reality, there are no rules for how to write a good story. It's just, it turns out good. It's good. There are certain things that are better to not do or to do. But in the end, some of the best books we all know about are the ones that did things that people would have said they shouldn't have done because it violated some university professor's rule. So anyway, one is Pride and Prejudice, liked it a lot. Good book. I'm glad I read it. I have an audiobook with all of Austen's books on my Audible library. I just haven't downloaded it yet and listened to it. But that's one yawn. I guess I'll be doing the others. I don't read a whole lot of romance. I've read several of Nora Roberts' books because she's like one of the greatest living writers. And I wanted to learn and see what she does. But it was the first time reading Austen, and she was pretty great. I liked it. It was good stuff. Let's see. All right, we can go on here for about an hour now, and I have, what have I said? A couple more books to talk through. But you know what? And a couple more recent events in the writing world to talk about. But I think I'm going to save that for tomorrow or the day after because it's now just after 10 o'clock here in San Diego, and I have things I got to do tomorrow, so I won't want to stay up too late. Besides, I'll just drip this out to you guys as I get back into the swing of things with doing this streaming bit. So I am going to sign off here in a bit. But before I do that, I wanted to let you know that I am actually doing a thing here very soon. I am getting going on a new crowdfunding campaign. As you know, as you should know, as you must know this because I am Kingswood and I write novels. But I've written a whole bunch of books, as you know, and I am one of the series that I have done is my Glimmervale Chronicles, which here's the first book. The original cover of the first book, Glimmervale, hand painted by a really great artist I hired. I had all the first 5 of the 5 books done up like this in these great hand paintings, but Well, hand painted. I think it's digital painting, but great art. But people told me that they looked a little too YA or middle grade, and they are not YA middle grade books. So I've changed the covers around a couple of times. 7 novels out now. I'm getting ready to go on number 8, and I have been crowdfunding new releases whenever I do them these days. I usually do Kickstarter, but these days, the backer kit has a thing going on, the Printopia thing, which is basically authors with their books crowdfunding in September. So I am going to crowdfund the next book in the Gloomy Vale Chronicles series here on BackerKit. And this is the pre-launch page. I'm going to put the link to it up so people who are interested can check it out. This art here is a placeholder. We're still working on the cover for number 8. So this is the art. This is the campaign artwork for the book 7 that I did a little while back. But it's a good placeholder art. If you go over to Kickstarter, to backer kit, and look at projects for me and Rift's Gloomy Vale Chronicles number 8, there's a button you can push. It'll sign you up to be notified when the campaign actually launches, and then you can come support the campaign and get a cool book and start a cool series that you may not have read before. Well, I do have an audiobook of the first two novels, but not the rest. You'll have to read them all. But anyway, I'm going to leave you with a ad spot that I made for the first one, Glimmer Vale, a few years. Actually, yeah, I did it a couple of years ago. And we'll play this, and then we'll sign off. Talk to you guys on the next one. Thanks for swinging by. It looks like a few people have come and gone, and that's cool. And hopefully we'll see more of you as we go. All right. Thanks. See you next time. Until then, don't do anything I wouldn't do. In a world of valor and magic, 2 soldiers flee from their past. An isolated mountain town suffers under the heel of a vicious band of brigands. An offer of redemption for the one, salvation for the other, but not without great risk to both. Action and adventure await in Glimmer Vale, the first book of the Glimmer Vale Chronicles. Get your copy today, wherever great books are sold.